Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the final session of today's Cyprus Masterclass. So we've already looked at different places to buy in Cyprus, and we've talked about the buying process. And now in this one, we're going to tackle the things you need to think about when you want to relocate and retire there. Bit of a hot potato at the moment. We've already been getting questions about Brexit and residency, so we're going to look at that in detail now. Healthcare is the other thing, tax and financial implications, as well as currency. So my name is Richard Way. I'm an international property journalist, and we are very lucky to have three other experts who work in overseas property media with Liz. Who are here today, have given up their time to talk to you and share their wealth of knowledge and experience, and answer any questions you have. So if you do have questions during the session, please send them in via the Q&A platform that you can get to via the Zoom desktop, and then I will read them and filter them to the relevant panelists. Just to say as well, this session is being recorded, so will be available as well after today on the Place in the Sun digital website. So if you don't catch it all now, or you want to send it to someone else, you can access it there. I'll just let each of our panelists introduce themselves briefly, just tell you who they are and the services they offer, how they can help you, and then we'll crack on and get on with the questions. So we'll start with you, Nick. Hi, Nick. You're in Cyprus.
I am, yes. My name is Nick Cairns. I'm from Blevins Franks Financial Management. We deal with all things financial, wealth management, pensions, investments, and so on, and tax advice.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. And whereabouts are you based? You Paphos, is that right?
I'm based in the Paphos office, yes, that's right.
Great. And how long have you actually lived out in Cyprus now?
I've been in Cyprus for 8.5 years. I moved over here to take the position with Blevins Franks.
Great. And if I remember right, you've got a family.
I have, yeah.
So your
wife and 3 kids. So,
and they're all at local schools. So you obviously.
Yeah, one's moved back to the UK for work. One's just gone this week to university back to the UK. And my youngest, my daughter's still here at school, at private school. Okay.
So you've experienced all types of services and public services that you need to in Cyprus as a resident through your family.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's become easier. There's a lot less red tape now than what there were 8 years ago.
That's good to hear. Great. Thanks very much. Hi, Simon Eastman.
Hey.
And just to tell us what you do, where you're from.
So my name's Simon Eastman from A Place in the Sun currency.
Yeah.
From sunny Hertfordshire, not overseas, unfortunately. And we help people make the most of their money, basically, get much better exchange rates than the banks offer. So making their currency that they need for their overseas property purchase a lot cheaper.
Right. So people buying in Cyprus, or even if they've already bought and they're sending over money regularly, pensions, income, you can arrange for all that. You can arrange all that for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much. Last but not least, Liz. Hi, Liz.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, I'm an overseas property journalist like Richard. I write for all the UK nationals at the moment. I work with Place in the Sun magazine, and I was in Cyprus exactly this time a year ago, actually, looking at the new marina in Ayia Napa. So I love Cyprus and just love property in general.
Great. And just going straight back to you, Liz, to kick off, you cover all the countries where British people like to move to, as opposed to have a second home. But Cyprus is a popular place, and obviously it has historic ties with the UK. I mean, what is it that you find makes people want to go to Cyprus when they could choose Spain, they could choose France, Italy? What normally makes people want to move to Cyprus or retire?
Well, I think Nick alluded to the aircon. It's the climate is a big factor. For a start, it's so sort of far east south that you've got, it's really winter sun, really, all year round. Great climate, beautiful landscape, very friendly people. but fundamentally also it's the whole sort of Anglo-friendly aspect of it, from driving on the same side of the road, the English legal system, everyone pretty much speaks English, the post boxes, the whole historic background of our two cultures are quite enmeshed. So there's a familiarity. A few buyers over the years have said, it's a bit like Britain with sun. I mean, some bits of it, but I mean that's good and bad. But there's definitely people feel very comfortable there.
Yeah, I'm sure you agree with that, Nick. I mean, like you said, you brought family up there, and did your children have they integrated well? I'm sure they've loved living in a warm climate like that.
Yeah, certainly. I think they're both the younger two have done 8 years schooling here. Both have both said separately they appreciate the education that they've had here. They've had private education, in fairness, but they've appreciated being out here and the different lifestyle rather than being in the UK. So, yeah, both of them speak Greek, so it's been helpful. They've integrated. They've got lots of Cypriot friends as well as expat friends. So yes, they've enjoyed their lives here.
Best of both worlds. I won't ask how your Greek is anyway, not yet. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of it now. We've had questions about residency and what's going to happen after the end of the year, because that's the end of the transition. Should people get residency now? So Nick, let's start with what people should be doing now. If you want to move to Cyprus before the end of the year, could you just run through the process and how easy it is and how easy it will be for someone moving there in the next few months to get it before the end of 2020? And then also just confirm what that means to you as a state, with your EU status if you get residency now. And then if you do know and you've got any inkling what's going to happen after the end of 2020 for new arrivals. So if you're arriving in Cyprus the 2nd of January 2021, what is the next step in terms of being able to stay there and get residency? Do we know anything yet? But let's just start with what happens now, if that's all right.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, as I said earlier, it's become much easier. There's lots less red tape. The authorities here are keen to get everybody that comes over here at the moment through the residency applications, because it's going to make it easier for them. Because, as you alluded to, it's still very grey what's going to happen after the 1st of January. What you've currently got at the moment is the MEU system. So what you probably heard it referred to as the yellow slip. So if it's your intention to spend more than 4 months a year in Cyprus, you should apply for residency. And the residency is the yellow slip, the MEU1. It's very simple to get now. You basically have to go to the immigration unit, the Aliens and Immigration Unit, and apply for an appointment. They give you an appointment and ask you what you expect your residency to be, whether you'll be working, whether you'll be retired. And then they'll give you a list of what documents you need to bring back for your appointments. Now, the appointments at the moment, I believe, are around 5 to 6 weeks in advance. So it gives you plenty of time to get together your documents. If you get together all the documents and go to your appointment, generally speaking, within half an hour, you'll be leaving the building with your yellow form and your photograph on it, and that's your residency sorted. Because you just become resident, that doesn't necessarily mean you become tax resident. You need to become tax resident. You need to spend 183 days a year in Cyprus, and then you would be deemed tax resident by the authorities here. So there's certain factors that you need to consider if you're spending certain amounts of time in the UK and 6 months here and so on. And that's something we can discuss with people and sort of go through, because it's individual circumstances that relate to tax residency. If you expect to just come over and that's you moved over, you're not going to be going anywhere else, it's your intention to become tax resident straight away. Once you've got your yellow slip, you can present yourself at the tax office with your yellow slip, complete an application to become tax resident, and you'll usually get your tax ID, tax code within about a week, 10 days. So it's pretty slick now. It's a fairly good process. So it has become easier.
Yeah. And why is it so? What's the big thing about getting your residency this year, your yellow slip this year? Just tell us.
Well, I mean, anybody who's got the yellow slip before the end of the year, before the period ends, will retain their EU rights here in Cyprus. And the authorities have said the same here. They've also given us a bit of an inkling that anybody that is here at the moment who may go past, they will give them a little bit of leeway next year to basically get their house in order.
Yeah.
But no, at the moment, we expect there'll be a similar sort of situation in place for people moving over and wanting to become a resident here. But we don't know exactly what form that's going to be. There's been talk of an ID card and so on. But the one thing that's for sure, UK expats are still going to be able to move to Cyprus. People were moving to Cyprus from the UK, from Ireland and so on, prior to Cyprus being in the EU. So that's not going to change. They're still welcome here. The Cyprus authorities have got a very close knit relationship with the UK, because there's lots of Cypriots in the UK as well. So there's various agreements that will be put in place to make sure that they look after each other's residents.
And the key thing as well, especially for retirees, is that obviously if you're, or pensioners rather, if you are pensionable age and you've got your S1 form and you present that in Cyprus, then you get automatic entitlement to the same level of healthcare that Cyprus.
As a national, yes. As a Cypriot national, yes, definitely.
So, I mean, this is a question here we've had from someone. If they moved over next year, is it fair to say you're going to need to get private healthcare, or will you be able to join the GESY? Is that state healthcare? Or do we not know?
It depends on each different person's circumstances. It depends on the age of the person. It depends whether you're going to be coming over as a retiree and so on. If you're coming over as a retiree and you've still got the S1 form, there's probably still going to be a reciprocal medical agreement in place. There was a reciprocal agreement in place prior to Cyprus being in the EU. And I would expect that they'll revert to a very similar system. So I think it's still going to be available, but the answer to whether people will need private medical, it depends on certain circumstances. Maybe a younger person who is coming over to work, who may not qualify for YESI straight away, will potentially need to get private medical insurance.
Right. I'm going to bounce around a bit here because the questions are coming in, but they're all relevant to this. Richard Hawkins, he's going back to the yellow slip. Do you need to be there in person to get the first appointment, or can you have you do? Yeah.
You have to present yourself at the immigration office to make your own appointment.
Yeah.
At present, which I suppose seems a little bit crazy if you're comparing it to a UK, even though you're not tax resident there. But it would only be any increase in growth of the value since 2016.
Okay.
But I mean, if people want to get in contact with me, I can send them full details of how that would work.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these questions will be, it'll be down to personal circumstances and how their financial affairs are set up. But just to confirm at Blevins Franks, I mean, this is the sort of thing you do day in, day out. Your clients will come to you because they have these sort of questions, or they have a number of pensions and they want to restructure it, and what do they do with UK-based assets and income? And you will actually sit down and work out the most tax-friendly way. Yeah. Great, thank you. Simon, another person you want on your team, if you like, when you relocate, is a currency transfer specialist. It's amazing how many people still don't opt to use them when they move, not just to Cyprus but anywhere around the world, because you really can save not just money, but save peace of mind, and you give peace of mind to clients in terms of how they can budget their purchase and their day-to-day living. Really, just tell us about how you operate and how you help people when they come to you and they say, well, "I'm buying in Cyprus, I'm moving to Cyprus." What do you want to know about them? How do you help them?
So really, we explain how we work, because as you say, traditionally people would just go to their bank.
Yeah.
Because that's where you go when you look to do anything to do with money. And they don't really think about it until the time comes that they've been told, you need to get X amount of money across to the lawyer in Cyprus. Whereas when they speak to ourselves, we want to know, where they are in the process, and we try and keep them informed from the off as to what's going on with the markets, find out when their funds are available, so we can discuss the full options that are available to them for when they buy their currency, because it doesn't have to be at the point where they need the currency. The lawyers are asking for a deposit or the completion funds. These things can take time, weeks, months to go through, and the currency markets can fluctuate massively in that time. So where we try and help and educate people is timing is everything. And we try and just, handhold people as to what their options are, when they can buy the currency. So we need to know when their funds are available and what sort of timescales they're working to with regards to their completion.
Okay, great. And actually, there's a question coming. It's tied with pensions and receiving your pensions with currency. So it's how does it work regarding transfer between UK and Cyprus? If the pension is paid direct in Cyprus or goes from the UK transferred to Cyprus and then paid to me, there's going to be fluctuation. So either the pension, it will be paid in one currency and you have to move it yourself, or
yeah, absolutely. Pensions are either the state pensions or private pensions can be paid obviously directly over to Cyprus. Then you're at the mercy of whatever the sending bank's exchange rate is. They can be sent into your personal account in the UK, and then you can then decide when you want to move those funds across, either by just taking it on a month-by-month basis or attitude towards where the rates are, or you can look at maybe locking in a certain amount of transfers. We offer things called forward contracts where you can book a certain amount of currency. You can then set the delivery of that currency, the settlement date, for any time up to 2 years ahead. So what people like to do, not all, but some, so they know exactly what they've got per month from a sterling figure paid monthly. You can lock in a 12-month forward where you buy 12 months worth of whatever your monthly sterling amount buys. That equates to the same euro amount every single month. And so people can generally budget. They know exactly what they're going to get on a month-by-month basis. Whereas if you just left it, the currency obviously moving up and down, that amount that you receive is going to change. So again, that's one of the options that people have, whether to fix it for a certain amount of time or just play it by ear and trade as and when.
And I know I've heard in the past that Cypriot banks like to charge commission, and they're quite good at creaming off a bit of your money when you ask them to move it around. Have you experienced that? I mean, presumably you can help reduce those sort of costs to people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're to be fair, Cypriots aren't the only ones. It happens in quite a few European countries. But there are ways that we can send your money to avoid any charges like that. We use it's called the SEPA system. It's the Single European Payment Area, and you have to send money in chunks under 50,000 euro. So, less relevant for sort of smaller pension payments. We would always send it via SEPA anyway, because any amount, if you sent it through the traditional banking method, could be hit with a receiving fee. But when you're sending money for a house completion, a couple of 100,000, and they decide to take 1% as a fee from you, that's going to hurt your pocket. So sending it via a company such as ourselves that can manage those transfers in such a way to avoid the fees is obviously a good thing.
Yeah, thank you. Liz, this is, I mean, I've learned a lot from Simon today about just how much they can do in terms of saving you money and bring you, some peace of mind when you're moving money out to Cyprus. Do you think generally when you do your interviews and you speak to people in the industry that most people are aware that this sort of service is there, or they just go straight to their bank still?
I think people are becoming much more aware. I think 10 years ago they didn't, when we'd often do our sessions at the live exhibitions. But now we have such a, also having a place in the Sun currency, we have there's a bigger presence, and I think people are far more savvy in all aspects of the buying and financial process. So yes, I mean, there's no reason not to use one, is there? I mean, it's a bit like using a lawyer when you buy abroad. But with using a currency broker, it doesn't even cost you any extra. It saves you money. So I think that people are getting the message that it's just a natural part of the process.
Yeah, and obviously you're FCA regulated, or authorised. So you're as safe as a bank. You know your money is ring fenced, your client money. So there's really,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Okay, let's move on to healthcare because time is ticking away. We touched on it a bit earlier, but Nick, you mentioned you've had a family. You've obviously, I'm sure you've experienced it at one time or another. Just generally, what is the standard of healthcare like in Cyprus? And do most residents, do they use the state healthcare or do they dip in and out of the private system? What's the normal sort of scenario?
I think it's changing greatly due to the new system. I mean, the SE healthcare system was brought in. It's been brought in across two waves. It was brought in firstly last year as purely as an outpatient sort of doctor's surgery type system, and then they've introduced from the 1st of September an inpatient service, and because initially, going back to your initial point, the state healthcare initially, state hospitals, I dipped in and out of both across both state and private hospital over the last 8 years. And I've had good experiences in both, to be honest. It's very different to the NHS in the UK. But the new system that they're bringing in, or they've brought in, because they've not got the infrastructure here for example, the general hospitals, they've allowed the private hospitals to subscribe into the new YESI system. So a lot of the YESI services. So I had a client this week who had a hip replacement done on YESI, and it was done at one of the private hospitals here in Paphos. And on the YESI system. So in comparison, last year he would have probably paid €8,000 for that, and this year he had that done on the YESI system. So, it is getting better, but it's got to be funded, and it's currently being funded. The social costs have been increased. So there is, although it's not a tax, it's a social cost. And for pensioners, self-employed, employed, we're all now having to pay into that. However, like you mentioned before, if you've got the S1 and you're above retirement age, you're not going to have that charge. But I mean, say for example, for a retiree, if you're an early retiree, for example, you're going to pay around 2.65% per annum of your pension income into the YESI system. But that will provide you with comprehensive medical care. And if you're getting to that age where you've retired, private health insurance is starting to become quite expensive. So, it looks like it's going to be a good system. We're in the early days of it, but my experience up to now has been very good. It's been a good experience.
So this YESI is a relatively new system, is it? This YESI system?
Yeah, it started last year, 2019, purely for outpatients, so doctor visits.
Yeah.
And then the full including inpatients, has started from the 1st of September this year. So it is very new. It is very new, but it seems to be working okay at present. Time will tell.
And I think you were referring to this just now. I know certainly in Spain, you can buy into the state system if you're not of the pensionable age. So, were you saying if you're an early retiree, can you pay a monthly or an annual fee to have access to it, or
you would pay 2.65% of your pension
of your income? So if you're not receiving a pension but you've got income, other means of income, you would pay a percentage of that, or is there a?
Yeah, you would pay a percentage, 2.65% of that of other income,
and then you'd have access to. And is that immediately when you arrive? Because in some countries you have to be resident for, I think it's 3 months, 6 months, or a year.
Yeah, there is a waiting period here like that as well. Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Liz, healthcare is one of the big concerns of people moving abroad. Is this what you're finding? I mean, is this one of the things that people who are relocating, not just to Cyprus, anywhere, they want reassurance that they arrive somewhere and as a non-EU national, as from the 1st of 2021, they're not going to suddenly be, stuck there with no access to any healthcare or whether it's private or state. So I guess the message is know what to expect before you get there, really.
Yeah, and more people we've interviewed over sort of the last year or so. I mean, people often just take private because it's relatively inexpensive with private healthcare in the UK, whether it's Spain or Cyprus or Portugal. So it's peace of mind if you reach an age when you're beginning to worry about your health, and with this uncertainty. But I mean, it is a big question mark. But I mean, we've had good noises out of Cyprus so far in terms we alluded to earlier about what going forward and the shared history for decades. So I would hope that they'll make some kind of agreement on that.
Yeah. Just to confirm, Linda McBurney's asked, what do they class as retirement age? Well, we're talking about pensionable age, really, aren't we?
That's right, yeah.
So it's the usual 65.
65, yeah.
Once you qualify for your UK state pension.
Yes.
Yeah. We've also got a question. I'm guessing they're Canadian because they're asking about Canadians. Is this exclusive to British expats? I think this is Scott Pedler. He's talking about the healthcare. So if you arrive in Cyprus as a Canadian citizen, what do you do for your healthcare? What are your options?
The rates are the same. The rates are exactly the same. It's a flat rate. It's the same for anybody who lives here. Even working Cypriots pay the same amount for the YESI system.
Yeah, so it's pretty transparent then. Yeah, all the way through. Great. Another question here from Lynn Antcliffe. My husband and I are looking to retire to Cyprus in the next 4 years. We both have long-term health issues, nothing life-threatening, but have monthly prescriptions. How would we be affected? The husband is 60 and she's 52. So what happens with prescriptions when you move to Cyprus?
Again, if you're on the YESI system, there's a limit. As long as the items that are on the prescription are on the list of drugs here, there's a limit to what can be charged. You can actually go online. I mean, I can't talk about specific medications, but you can actually go online and do a Google search, and you can find the government list, which tells you the maximum amount that can be charged. But for the government set the prices of what can be charged for each medication. So you can actually find that list online. I've looked for it myself, so I know it's there. Okay,
so that's where they need to go for that. Yeah. Just a quick one here. Martin Braddock said is UK retirement age for men 67 now. Is that right?
Yes.
It is 67. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, my mistake there.
That's when you qualify for your S1 form.
So 67 from
Yeah. So rising all the time.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
You've got a long way to go, Richard.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Liz. If you're a retiree arriving next year in Cyprus, is it likely that a larger bank deposit will be required as proof of sufficient income or savings? That's from Pete Tizo. Do we know anything about that yet? I'm guessing
we don't. I mean, what the authorities want to know here. It's not so much about what you've got in the bank; it's that you can afford to keep yourself. And you know, we have people who come over here who don't really have much in the bank. However, they've got pensionable income that is more than enough to support their living here. So that will suffice for the authorities here, and that wouldn't stop them getting residency.
Is it likely? Is a sort of worst case scenario, if you like, that there isn't any concessions for British people moving to Cyprus, and they have to apply for one of these investment visas or a certain type of visa, or is that really not sort of in the equation? That you don't think?
I don't think it's in the equation. I think there'll be a solution in place fairly quickly. As I say, it's both the Cypriot government and the UK government are making the right noises in terms of having reciprocal agreements. There's a very, very tight relationship between the two countries. So I don't foresee there being an issue at all.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to hear. Let's look at some of the other broader issues as well for people relocating. Liz, these could probably apply anywhere, but what other things would you advise to people who are about to relocate? Perhaps more lifestyle things, ways of integrating, getting to meet people, getting settled in a community.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of places we've been talking about in Cyprus, like Paphos, they have a very sort of good sort of expat infrastructure. So, you know, there's all sorts of clubs, as I'm sure Nick might be aware of, and from there's a yoga club in Paralimni, there's Rotary clubs, there's walking clubs, there's all sorts. And of course, if your kids go to school, you have a sort of perhaps a network there that you can tap into, play golf. In lots of the resorts I've been to, like Aphrodite Hills or Minthis Hills, there's social activities for residents organised. So, I mean, you have to put yourself out there a bit to actually, you have to make an effort. It's just quite simple, really. And but I mean, the language isn't generally an issue. I mean, if you live in a little village somewhere, speaking some Greek might really help you get in with the locals. But otherwise, Cyprus is I would say it's one of the easiest places to be an expat.
Yeah, and
I'm sure Nick will have a good view on that as well.
Yeah, this is where I ask you what your Greek is like, Nick.
Yeah. My Greek's very limited, I'm afraid.
I appreciate you being honest. Why don't you tell us about how you spend weekends and what is the expat social scene like if you dip into it? I mean,
I suppose it depends where you want to live. Some people want to live, like Liz says, rurally and out of the way of things. If that's the case, there's not much to do in them places. However, if you live in sort of the villages close around Paphos area, places like Paya, Tala, these places are open all year round. There's lots of different clubs, bowling clubs. There's, like Liz mentioned, there's 4 golf clubs this side of the island, various sports clubs, walking football clubs. There's every different entertainment that you have in other countries. It's all here as well. And like you say, if you live in the expat areas, there's lots going on. There's lots going on. You'll tend to find that even when the holiday resorts are quiet, there's still entertainment going on in the villages, because people want to go out every weekend and see a singer, see a band, go out for a nice meal, and the entertainment is there.
What are the winters like? I mean, it's described as a winter sun destination, and I believe certainly on the coast You get sun in the winter months, but I know inland as well it can get a bit quiet and cold. I mean, it's a consideration when you're picking where to live, I suppose, as well. You should check the local climate.
Yeah, I mean, you come one sort of January, February, it can get quite cold. And when I say quite cold, it'll drop down into single figures. But you'll still have days, you'll still have days where it'll be up around 15 to 20 degrees, which is still pleasant. However, it does get cooler at night. But it's not the cold that I was used to living up north in the UK.
But you can do skiing in the Troodos Mountains.
You certainly can,
so you could do, maybe it could be a ski and swim in one day type destination.
Yeah. Ski, golf, and swim probably if you can stopped off at Aphrodite Hills and then hit the beach.
Yeah, that's right.
We haven't talked about the cost of living as well. That's something people should be, need to consider when they move anywhere. What is it? How does it compare Cyprus to the UK? Eating out. Can you go and eat out for €10? What's the general consensus on that?
I mean, it's a mixture. It's like all areas. There's different levels of dining. If you want to go and fine dine, it's generally cheaper than the UK. But again, if you compare to sort of going for a local pub meal in the UK, I would say you can eat for the same sort of price and get much better standard of food here. But there's a broad spectrum as to where people want to eat and what they want to eat. But there's every different type of cuisine available out here all year round. I think as an overall living cost, I think it is cheaper than the UK.
Your household costs. I mean, things like do you have council tax, which is very low, isn't it?
Yeah, we have an equivalent of council tax. It's about €140 a year, okay. and that includes having our bins emptied twice a week. So it's a big difference compared to £200 a month that was being paid in the UK. Electricity tends to be the biggest cost here.
Yeah.
However, my last two bills, it's billed every 2 months, but my last two bills are the two lowest bills I've ever had since I've lived here in 8.5 years, and that includes a July-August bill. So it can be, yeah. That's probably because you don't generally have gas. You cool in, and everything else is all electric. So, but yeah, the cost is coming down. It is being pushed down. But I think that's driven by the oil prices as well, in fairness. So,
yeah.
I mean, overall costs are quite low.
A quick question here from an anonymous person. Are there any popular forums for meeting expats? But not even, or even clubs or that you know of?
There tends to be, there's various forums and clubs. There's a group called P3A who have various different offshoots for different types of interests. They'll have a book club, they'll have a walking club, and that's where people generally meet. The clubs are the places that you meet people. Bowling clubs. I don't know as such as a forum as such that gets together. I mean, I've seen certain cases previously where you've met, say, for example, Facebook pages have made
Facebook
get-togethers. Yeah, they put a get-together so that people can meet, but not a lot of that really. It's more about getting out in the areas where you live, and there's lots of activities going on, and you tend to sort of meet people that way.
And I know because Nick, you're out there, and obviously you're well integrated. I'm asking you a lot of these, but this is another one about how to get a car. To most people, is it easy to buy cars out there, and are they expensive, or what's the? Because you drive on the left, of course, don't you, as well, which is good for.
Yeah, I mean, second-hand cars are expensive, but it's becoming more expensive to ship a car over here now. due to emissions and so on. So before you ship a car out, you need to look at what the costs are going to be. Generally speaking, now, I mean, I've just looked into it myself about shipping another car over. You need to be shipping there's quite heavy charges on if it's older than 2016. So it's not my area. I just know because I've shipped a couple of cars over myself, but a lot of it is based upon emissions. New cars, surprisingly, are quite a lot of the companies out here are cheaper for a new car in comparison to the same vehicle in the UK. The likes of Nissan, BMW even, they're cheaper here than to buy the same car in the UK. So it's worthwhile looking. If you're wanting to buy a new car, it's definitely a consideration over here. But a second-hand car, you'd be surprised at what some of the second-hand cars go for here. You see some cars that are going for like €5,000, and they probably wouldn't be on the road in the UK.
Well, and very quickly, before we have running out, we're just coming to the end now. But what are the driving conditions like? What are the roads like? I mean, do you need eyes in the back of your head? Is it one of those places, or is it relatively calm?
It's different than the UK. You have to be aware.
Yeah.
You have to be aware of other drivers more than your own driving. The roundabouts tend to be every man for themselves.
Okay.
That's just the main one that you need to be. Roundabouts tend to be every man for themselves. Just be cautious because people will enter the roundabout rather than giving way. But overall, the roads are much quieter than the UK. Even driving, I regularly do it. Driving one side I drive from the west coast here over to the east coast, over to Protera, Sayonapa, Paralimni area, and it's an hour and a half, 2 hours highway all the way. Really easy going. You might hit a little bit of congestion. When I say congestion, I don't mean you stop. You slow down a little bit as you go through Limassol because it's a busy city. But very rarely do you have any stoppages on the highway. It's just a nice, steady drive and a lot more relaxed in comparison to the numbers on the road in the UK.
Sure. Great. Thank you. We're all very interesting. We could chat all day about lifestyle in Cyprus, I'm sure. So we're going to have to say goodbye, but just very quickly, Simon, what would you advise someone who was about to move to Cyprus in terms of currency? Can they come and talk to you and talk through their plans? Would that be?
Yeah, absolutely. Go onto the website, register, or just send us a message and we'll come back to you and we can have a chat about your plans and how we can help.
And there's no obligation once they talk to you or open an account?
Not at all. No obligation. To register is free. Again, no obligation.
So why wouldn't you come and chat? I don't know why you wouldn't.
Exactly.
Exactly. Great. Thank you very much. Nick, same. I know everyone can contact you through your Place in the Sun digital website, and there are opportunities to book an appointment, a virtual appointment for people to do that. So I'm sure your team are all waiting to talk to people.
Certainly, yeah.
Hopefully you might see some out in Cyprus in the near future. And Liz, thanks very much for sharing your experience and knowledge of Cyprus. Good luck to everyone watching. This is the last session of the Cyprus Masterclass today. So we hope not just this one, but all the others have been useful to you and help you to move to Cyprus and enjoy your life there. In the future, as I said earlier, all of these sessions are going to be available on the Place in the Sun digital website, so you can download them in the future or send them on to friends and acquaintances. Otherwise, good luck with everything, and thank you for listening and watching.
Thanks, Richard.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.